Got about 104. We're going to go ahead and get started. Now, I'm guessing there are a number of reasons why people are showing up today. Maybe you're new to restoration and you want to make sure that you stay ahead of your first storm season, or if you're more of a seasoned veteran in this industry, you've gone through storm season before and you want to make sure that your business is better prepared for the upcoming ones. Either way, you're all in the right place. And I think we can all agree that getting paid in construction is not very easy. And restoration has a unique relationship with that. And we're certainly going to go in that, pull back the cover about why that is, and make sure that, again, your businesses are best prepared to handle that and be proactive. My goal, though, is that you'll leave this session feeling confident about the steps that your business can take to get paid on time. You know, restoration contractors using Levelset have been able to cut down on their time to payment, anywhere from 90 days down to 17 days. So we know that this works, and we're really happy to be able to chat further and connect with this industry to get those same results for you. Some housekeeping items, though. We are recording this session. You'll receive a link to the recording tomorrow to rewatch it or share with your team and colleagues, anyone else that you think would benefit from this. And as mentioned, if you do have any questions during the presentation, go ahead and enter them into the chat box. My co-host here, Kiana, said that it should be good to go. So anything that you have during the presentation, feel free to throw it in there. And if it's relevant, we'll stop, chat, make sure that everyone's on the same page. Of course, I know that you're busy people, so appreciate you sitting down and chatting with us. If you can't stay for the whole duration, there will be a QR code on upcoming slides that you can scan, fill out your information, and request a call either later today or tomorrow. I will personally be giving you guys a call so that we can chat a bit further about whatever it is you may need. Okay. So my name is Michael Agnello. I'm an account executive at Levelset. I work with businesses like yours to get paid more quickly and stabilize their cash flow so that they can be successful. And I wanted to specifically do this webinar because restoration companies, they mean something different in a place like New Orleans, which is where I currently live. Last year, Hurricane Ida hit the city and our region really hard. But what I thought was moving was that contractors from all over the country came rushing down here to help get things back to normal. It's a great thing when you feel that support because your industry, quite literally, plays a direct role in getting people back into their homes. And yes, there is money to be made in it, but the tough part is you're doing this really noble act, and then you're still experiencing all these issues getting paid for a variety of reasons. So we'll make sure that we address that. And for those of you who may be newer to Levelset, I do want to make sure that we at least give you a quick overview of what we do here. So our goal here at Levelset, we were founded on the purpose of empowering businesses to get what they earn. Like I mentioned, construction, restoration as a trade specifically presents a lot of challenges, payment being one of them. Like in no other industry would you do work and then wait 60 to 90 days to get that paycheck. I'm fortunate to get paid biweekly here. I know that's not the reality for a lot of contractors out there. And so what we do is protect those businesses with our lien rights management software so that you can track your notice deadlines, verify job site details, overall make your process of managing your payment rights easier so that your team can focus on other important areas. We also provide access to construction attorneys and other legal services, plus all sorts of resources like webinars, like blogs that can make sure that you're staying up to date about industry best practices. All right, let's jump into the presentation. We've got an agenda here so you can know what to expect. We're going to discuss the challenges that restoration contractors face, the steps that you can take with owners and adjusters to set better expectations, how you can use Levelset to manage those expectations and have better payment terms. And then, of course, we're going to save room at the end for some restoration FAQs, success stories, and of course, a Q&A session. Right. personally worked with a lot of restoration companies here at Levelset, and while the challenges that you face are unique, we've seen that employing a consistent strategy leads to successful outcomes. And by that, we mean that when you understand and try to approach it proactively, these issues of communicating high job volume, slow payouts, you're able to have a more predictable outcome. The twist, though, is that during storm season, these issues, they're going to happen, but your days and your job volume, it looks a bit crazier than it does in other times. So you want to make sure that you get ahead of these curves, you get ahead of these issues before you're spending 18 hours a day going from job site to job site, staying in hotel rooms for weeks on end, not seeing your family. We want to make sure that you guys have a process in place before those crazy times begin, okay? So in terms of communicating with parties, what I mean is that restoration is a trade that homeowners and even some adjusters don't fully understand. And setting expectations about what kind of work you're doing and when you expect to get paid can be a hurdle. High job volume, like I just mentioned, it's sometimes hard to slow down and chase payment from a carrier or a homeowner. You don't have the bandwidth to stop and call and pester people. You got a million more jobs lined up that need your attention. So that's always going to be a hurdle. And then slow payouts, the net result of a lot of this stuff, it kills cash flow. Payments from jobs that you completed 60 to 90 days ago, they don't feel like they're actually helping your business grow. It's more so patching a hole in your pocket that's still growing each day. Okay. So in terms of how we're going to approach this first part of getting paid by adjusters and owners, we do have a 5-step process here. And so in general, you're relying on your property owner to pay you. In turn, they're relying on their carrier to pay their claim. And there's certainly an urge to feel like, hey, I got to jump in and talk to the adjuster and help things move more quickly. But the core part of your job is building a strong relationship with the client. And it's important to make sure that you're avoiding mistakes that can land you in hot water. And so we want to make sure that we have the right approach that will improve communication, build trust, help you get paid faster. So step 1, which I've alluded to, is set expectations. So in general, we see that there are 3 parties, sometimes more, involved in a restoration project. You have the property owner, you have the adjuster, and then you have the contractor. Oftentimes or sometimes there may be a mortgage company involved as well, but almost always there's those 3. Each party in that little triangle there has their own rights, their own responsibilities. You're working for the property owner, the carrier is working for the property owner, and sometimes your interests aren't always aligned. And so in terms of setting expectations, you want to make sure that they know what to expect when navigating this. And part of that means understanding, for the homeowner understanding and the adjuster understanding, what can happen if the claim is delayed? What can happen if you don't get paid on time? Whether that's the adjuster taking their sweet time and approving that claim, or whether it is the homeowner who's actually been paid out and is holding on to that check a little bit too long, you want to make sure that expectations are crystal clear and that you can take next steps. All right. On the flip side, you also want to make sure that the adjuster knows what to expect, just for context. All right. Step 2, yes, Kiana. Step 2, protecting your rights from day one. This goes hand in hand with setting expectations. Sending out a preliminary notice to the homeowner and adjuster is a fantastic way to make sure that your rights are communicated. And if you're working in a state that requires prelims be sent as a prerequisite, it'll check that box too. And just so we're all on the same page here, a preliminary notice is a document that contractors send at the beginning of a job to inform others, the homeowner, the insurance carrier, the mortgage lender, about your presence and work on the job. You've probably heard them referred to before, maybe as a pre-lien or a notice to owner, notice to furnishing. But what this is again, a document that puts forward your presence on the job, makes you look professional, and it also, of course, makes sure that the homeowner adjuster knows that your rights are protected and you can leverage those rights if you need to. Now, I'd mentioned that some states require a preliminary notice, and I'm sure you probably are wondering what I mean. So generally speaking, every state has mechanic lien laws on the books. Those are the laws that allow you as a contractor, sub, or supplier to file a lien if push comes to shove and you're not paid. That said, some states, like take Florida, for example, generally speaking, it may be required for you to send out a preliminary notice or a notice to owner in order to preserve that right. And that's what I'm kind of referring to, is that some of these states operate a bit differently in that in order to have this right at the end of a job, you have to satisfy certain paperwork at the front end. Okay. Step 3 here, keeping track of your delinquent customers. So in order to make sure that your cash is in the door and you don't have to chase down payments, try to get a better system of keeping track of your delinquent invoices. Typically when you guys are using QuickBooks or Sage to send out your invoices, I'm sure you have an idea before that invoice is going out, like who's going to be a problem customer, or, I've heard this before. Some restoration contractors know that a certain carrier is problematic. Like this specific company takes longer than others to pay out. And so try to get a habit of making a record of that. So again, you can treat those a little bit differently as you go forward and get really busy. Step 4 here, we're going to use a secret weapon, and it's called a notice of intent to lien, an NOI. Enforcing your lien or actually filing that lien should be a last resort. Liens are the nuclear option. Nobody, Levelset included, wants to file a lien. And so there is another way to make sure that these rights are working for you. You're upfront about your intentions and that you work to avoid that. So a notice of intent is that secret weapon that says, hey, final warning here, I don't want to file this lien. You don't want a lien filed. Let's resolve this. Okay. And then the final step 5 is file the lien, right? Ideally, it'll never come to this, but when push comes to shove, you need to be able to be ready to utilize this. You don't want to be in that situation of waiting 60, 90, 120 days for payment and then realize, oh shoot, I actually missed my deadline to file a lien. And that's the part where you realize getting that payment, getting that material or payroll paid for that you've already put out of your pocket, it may not actually happen. And so we want to make sure that you're always staying on top of this and utilizing this if you absolutely need to. Okay. And just a quick caveat, for those who don't know, a lien is a massive liability for a homeowner. Generally speaking, it can impact their ability to refinance, to sell their home. In rare cases, it could even lead to the home being foreclosed on in order to satisfy the debt. And so when a lien is filed or when a lien is approaching that case, it should be fairly clear to the homeowner, the adjuster, everyone involved that, it's a lot better of an option to pay for the debt than have a lien filed. Okay. I mentioned this earlier. These are all great steps to make sure that, again, you're putting forward a professional process, a process that's going to work to communicate, to actually set better expectations. But where does Levelset fit into all this? And what we do is every part that we've mentioned so far, unsurprisingly, we do really, really well, and we make it easy for you. So we're going to make sure that when you're using us, this process is ready from the jump. You're going to be able to keep track of all your paperwork in one place. That's with our lien rights management solution. So this is, when you get on a job, we'll make sure that we get out that preliminary notice, whether it's required in some states or recommended. We're going to make sure that we send it out on time and to the right parties. You're also going to make sure that you're always being tracked for your next step. So if you have a deadline to file a document coming up, our system is going to make sure that we're notifying you so that you get it out on time and easily just through a couple clicks. And of course, if you do need to file a lien, again, same thing. You do it right through our system. You don't have to go down to the courthouse or the recorder's office to do it. Stay at home on your phone, click a couple buttons, we'll get it done for you. Of course, there is the possibility that you need a lawyer. Again, it could be that the lien is being avoided, or it could be that you have a really unique situation that needs more expert opinion. We do have attorneys that we can pair you with in select states, and that is, of course, I think a lot of people think when it gets bad enough, I need an attorney, but I'd also argue that having an attorney, and what this program does is they can do a legal health check of the business, again, proactively, before you enter a really busy period of your business, like storm season. Have an attorney review everything, make sure you got a good contract, make sure you guys are protected and putting forward the best foot. And then you still at least can have these people, if it gets bad enough that, hey, the homeowner is getting an attorney, or, the carrier is getting an attorney, at least you have that relationship already. Okay. So I want to do a quick pause and make sure that if there are any questions so far, throw them in the chat. I know that I've been talking for a lot, and so I want to make sure that if there are any questions about what I've said so far, that you all can jump in. All right. What are Levelset customers saying? We have this fantastic customer, Brian from Dry Patrol of Central Ohio, and they're a water damage and restoration company. When they partnered with Levelset a few years ago, their average time to payment was about 90 days. So they did the work, they waited 90 days to get paid. When they started to implement this same system that I just went through, setting expectations at the front end of a job, like really making sure that you walk your customer through what to expect in terms of a claim being paid out and your role in that, sending out notices, protecting their lien rights, they cut their payment down to about 17 days on average. I mean, that's unheard of in this industry. And so for those types of results, you have to be committed to the process. And Levelset is that tool that allows you to do this really easily. Curious though, what's the longest that maybe some of you have gone without getting paid on a project? Oh, wow. Okay. We've got someone who writes in at 6 months, and I'd mentioned Ida earlier, and you've been waiting on a payment since Ida. So, wow. Yeah, I mean, this is a tough industry, and it's one that is a bit more challenging than just regular. Hey, maybe I'm like a residential remodeler, and it's a very straightforward. I'm working with the homeowner, and they're the one distributing the payment. But when you have an insurance company involved, there's a lot more red tape to cut through. And so it makes your job more challenging, not knowing who to follow up with, not knowing if it's been paid out, and it's the homeowner who's holding onto the check. And so it's really important that you involve all the parties, that at the beginning of the job, you're talking to the homeowner, you're sending out documentation to the homeowner and adjuster saying, hey, I'm not waiting 6 months for payment. I'm doing the job. I'm going to get it done well. And I expect to be paid in a reasonable amount of time, whether that's 30 days or whether that's less, depending on what your contract states. But you have to make sure that you're advocating for yourself. And the best way to do that is when you have leverage to do that, when you have the ability to say, if you don't, comply with the agreement that we had, these are the steps I could take, right? That's the goal here, is to make sure that you have leverage to fight back on some of these. Okay. Time for some questions. So we do have one that just rolled in. We have 3 contracts with the GC that are paid when paid by owner. How do we push to get paid sooner? Great question. And something that I think always presents some issues, a paid when paid situation. when has the homeowner actually remitted payment? What I would say to that is make sure that you're protecting yourself via lien rights. And then whenever that payment is dispersed, you at least will have the leverage to get it more quickly. Because sometimes paid when paid, and I've seen this in my experience, you don't know when it's been paid. So if I'm the GC, I might be like, I still haven't been paid yet. And I'm holding on to that check because my cash flow is out of order and I can't pay you yet. So I'm just going to keep telling you that I haven't been paid. It's an extreme example, but if you are doing your due diligence to have leverage and protect your lien rights, when that payment gets remitted, it should immediately come down to you. On the flip side, if you are approaching a deadline, like let's say it's been paid when paid and you're still waiting, it's 3 months, and the state says, hey, if you're not paid, this is typically when to file a lien, take that next step. Communicate with the property owner or whoever is actually dispersing that payment and make sure they know that you're going to file this document, this high risk legal document for them, unless payment starts coming down the chain. It's a way to kind of grease the wheels and make sure that everyone knows, you can't wait forever. What else do we have? These are some good questions though. Okay. Okay, we also had another question about what happens if our lien deadline has passed. And that's a tough one, right? Keep in mind, the state has pretty specific deadlines for a reason, and you want to make sure that as best you can, you stay within those. If it goes outside of that, generally speaking, that's where we'd say it's time to get an attorney involved. If your lien deadline has passed, it may be time to approach it from a different angle, which could include, small claims court or litigation. That said, we always want to make sure that we're keeping you guys in line, putting those guardrails up so that this doesn't happen in the future. So would love to chat a bit more with that individual who wrote that. And we can see, what went wrong in that project and how to make sure that it doesn't happen again. And of course, if you do obviously want to continue to pursue that, we can help you get paired with the right attorney. Okay. Well, I know that I've thrown out a lot of information here, and we've gone through a few questions. So if anything else, please keep them going. I'm going to hang out here for a bit longer. But if anyone has to jump, that concludes kind of our presentation today. So I appreciate you all for joining and attending. As mentioned, you're going to receive a recording of this in an email tomorrow or the following day. And then if you want to reach out directly to me, that QR code bottom left here, you'll put out your name and contact info, and I'll give you a call. We can certainly go through this a little bit more, talk about your business on a one-to-one level, and see what it looks like to get a process in place. Overall message here, time to get a process in place is before storm season. That's when you're going to get super busy. That when a hurricane hits, you guys are going to be mobilizing and rushing out to the scene and making sure that people can get back to their lives. And so you don't want to have to be worrying about when payment will come when you're doing that. So get the process in place now so that you're ready to go no matter what happens in the next 2 months.